Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. This is the place where you can go to find your future, find the way to make your plan work, plan, prosper, and pass on with the power of 664. That's what this is all about, is 664. How can it help you do what you need to do to make your life better in the future by increasing your income, reducing your taxes, using charity? What better way is there to do your financial planning? That's what the whole point of this program is. We want to get you used to the word 664 or the words 664, the numbers 664. Just like you know what a 401k is, we want you to know what a 664 is. It's very important. It can help you reduce your taxes, increase your income, and make your life much simpler in the future if you want to get your whole existence to be a calm, secure, knowing position where you know that you've got the income that you need to live on for the rest of your life. It's very important. And of course, extending life is very important. And today we have folks living to over 100. That's becoming more and more prevalent. We see a lot of centenarians. People have to get past some of the things that happen to them in life. And there are events that we have no control over sometimes that need us to think about being rescued. And the Hebrew term for rescue is Hatzalah. And my guest today is Andre Roitman, who is with Hatzalah in South Florida. Good morning, Andre. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us today.
Yes, I think you're doing something extremely important in the community that people need to really know about, and those who don't know about it need to learn about it. And if those know about it don't want to take up the opportunity when they need it to use your services, the services of Hatzalah, we recommend that they think second time about that. Tell us a little bit about Hatzalah.
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, Hatzalah is the Hebrew word for rescue, which basically Hatzalah is a community-based rescue organization for emergency medical services. We were established back in 2010 here in Florida, but we're over 60 years old in New York. The whole concept started when an elderly man collapsed on the floor, and all his friends were looking at him and had no idea what to do. So one man took a stand and said, "We got to do something about it." He got himself a oxygen tank, and anytime somebody was having difficulty breathing, they would call him, and he would just run to try to help provide oxygen to this person, waiting for the fire rescue to arrive. That's how the concept started about 60 years ago in New York. And fast forwarding, it evolved into a full EMS agency where we have ambulances and paramedics, doctors, and EMTs involved, where basically it's a community-based service that people who are going on with their lives, spread out in the city, working with their, not necessarily in the medicine world. For example, I'm a banker. I work at the Valley Bank. I'm in my office, and we all carry a radio. And at any time that a call comes into this radio, our life stops, and we volunteer to run to the call, to the emergency, with our training as EMTs and paramedics, and try to help another human being that are close by. So instead of me sitting on my station and going to the call whenever it's called, I'm sitting in my building, my office building. If somebody collapses in my office building and they call our hotline, the chances that I'll be there in the next 2 minutes, it's much greater and increases the potential to saving a life, as opposed to waiting for 10, 15 minutes for a fire truck or an ambulance to arrive.
Yeah, so, I don't think people really know that that issue. They don't really are not aware of that. I wasn't aware of it until I heard the presentation the other night at our meeting by Jeff Levy, and that you're actually in the neighborhoods, and so it's not. And there's a lot of you. From what I understand, in the Aventura, Sunny Isles Beach area, how many people are actually covering that area that are volunteering to do this?
So we currently have 250 volunteers in the entire South Florida. And the beauty of the network is that it doesn't matter where you live, it matters where you are. So if you are within 5 to 6 minutes of the emergency, even if you live in Boca Raton, if you happens to be having dinner in Aventura, You have the same equipment, the same level of training, and you can basically run between 3 to 5 to 6 minutes to be on the call, and you're able to save a life. In Aventura, leaving Aventura Sunny Isles area, we have about 25 volunteers,
Okay.
between EMTs and paramedics.
And what happens when they call Hatzalah? What happens?
We have a 24/7 dispatch center, also volunteers, trained dispatchers. All our volunteers are EMTs, which means they are emergency medical technicians. So they're trained. We don't go through a script. We are trained to actually ask medical questions to understand and evaluate the patient right there. So our medical care starts at the phone call. We're not doing phone medicine, but it starts already understanding what kind of services they actually need. And we're able to allocate if you need only EMTs or if you need paramedics, if you need an ambulance, how many people you need there. And that's basically the dispatcher understanding. So when you call the 305 number, the dispatcher will send out the tone to the entire city. And whoever is closer to the address will be the first to respond. And
so
that's
the technology, I guess there's a GPS. It must be some sort of a GPS or algorithm, something that identifies. It's almost like Uber. You're like a rescue Uber, which is really phenomenal. It was so. And I know the most incredible thing about all this is that you are funded through charitable means, through the public, through people supporting your organization, and not through a government organization, through taxes, which is to me is of course a phenomenal compliment to what we're doing with regard to what we see in the community. We believe charity is the way for things to happen. Charity from the community itself, not from the top down, from a government down. That's not charity. That's somebody taking your taxes and misspending them in a way. Anyway, so Hatzalah, do you? I know that I guess you have supporters. Now, how do you get your support? Where's it coming from primarily? Is it coming from local citizens giving small amounts, or are people interested in making this work on a bigger scale? How do you do that?
So both. We need both. In general, you have the $18, the $10, the $100 donors that go on our website and they make daily donations in our website. Each ambulance costs at least $400,000 in order to have it purchased and have all the supplies in it. So just the bed that goes into the ambulance cost about $40,000 to $50,000. People don't really think about it when they go into the ambulance, the cost that goes into it. So in order to purchase an ambulance, we do rely on bigger donors that come in and they sponsor the full ambulance. When it comes to operations, we have everything from people giving small amounts like $10, $20, all the way to people that are giving $100,000. Our budget after COVID skyrocketed because our organization was much smaller. We had about 60 volunteers taking about less than 1,000 calls a year. Our organization after COVID and after we received the state license back in 2022 that allows us to have the ambulance and transport, our budget went from about $200,000 to about $2 million. Our budget last year was about $1.8 million.
Right.
And that is the beauty of Hatzalah, is that we don't have people on pay. We have a secretary, we have a technician for the antennas, but all 250 responders and dispatchers are all volunteers. So really, when you give a donation to Hatzalah, you're not giving donation to red herrings and other salaries and things that are happening.
Things that are not legitimate.
You're actually paying for the ambulance, for the supplies, for the insurance, for the actual things that the necessities to be able to take those calls and save a life.
But your budget, that's a budget for Dade County? Is that South Florida's budget for the 200 paramedics that EMTs that are out there with? How many ambulances do you have in South Florida?
14 ambulances currently.
Wow. So, and a community, I mean, let's say a community like Aventura, where they got probably 40,000 residents. And you have, I don't know what the incident level is there, or how many ambulances you actually need to service that. But if you divide that number of people into the 400,000, it doesn't amount to a lot of money for people to support an ambulance. And that's a much better and more direct way to do it than doing it through other means, through taxes and having the government figure out how to do this. I think you've actually figured out a better way to do something that is really important in the community, and that's I commend. I think it's just right up the road to human kindness, and that's what's important to us here. So, Andre, when you decided to do this, I know it's not full time, right? You work elsewhere. It's almost like the way that the Congress is supposed to operate. You're supposed to be operating in your community, and then you go to Washington and you serve as a congressman for a couple of weeks, and then or whenever you're needed there, but not full time. And that's really valuable. Is that something that is born out of the Israeli mindset, do you think, or is that where is that coming from? Is that coming from Jewish tradition? What do you think is the element there?
I think the main element is the willingness to help the community. Volunteerism comes from the heart of really wanting to give back to the community. Yes, in the Jewish tradition, we have something that's called tzedakah, which is the charity, which is something that is spoken since we're little kids. It's embedded in our hearts and in our brains that charity, at least 10% of whatever we make, it's not even ours. It doesn't belong to us. So obviously spending responsibly, it's not about giving up all your wealth, but up to 20%. That's the law in the Jewish tradition. There is a element of helping each other. And when we're all in the same network helping each other, everybody's able to have a much better life than when I am only thinking about my own self and you're thinking about yourself. When we combine the efforts, sometimes we're doing things at the same thing. Instead of it, I'll do one thing, you do another, and we're combining, we have a much better community. And I think that's the basis for my willingness. It's interesting that back in 2012 or 2011, somebody came over to my synagogue and said, we need volunteers for Hatzalah. I said, I'm a banker. I'll help you with manage the funds, but don't expect me to become an EMT.
Very interesting.
He was like, no, we need EMTs. I was like, okay. So I decided to join and become an EMT. Back in 2012, I got my license. And I'm dealing with money the whole day. And right now I was sitting actually in my office managing my clients' portfolios. And it's a beautiful thing to help people financially, but to be able to help somebody that's on the floor and is helpless, and you're there, and the shiny eyes of the person when they see you, it's really, there's no price. It's priceless to be able to help another person in need.
My guest is Andre Roitman, and Andre, what is your position with Hatzalah? Are you just an EMT, or do you have a higher position there?
So I'm the director of the organization.
I'm sorry?
I'm the director of the organization. So I manage
organization. Okay, director of South Florida, Hatzalah of South Florida.
Correct, and I manage Hatzalah. I'm the treasurer also, so I pay the bills basically with the help of everybody else.
So you know about the money stuff. Yeah, we're going to be back in a minute with Andre. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
We've got best-selling authors.
You are going to start to uncover all the layers that are covering your genius.
And some of the world's top leadership experts.
We have structured a mastermind program that is very unusual, and it is very powerful.
Robin Sharma at noon.
Your creativity will soar. Your productivity will be epic. Your impact will be legendary. You will be the best in the business, and you will not only achieve remarkable things, but you're going to feel sunsets. You'll feel a connection to people. You'll feel for what's going on in the world, and that will make you a world changer in your own unique way.
Robin Sharma at noon at 4 p.m.
It's a
Blaine Bartlett.
exploration of what it takes to be a highly effective leader in today's fast-changing environment.
Best-selling author, executive, and leadership coach.
And if you've been liking what you've been listening to on these Soul of Business podcasts, how does one become a leader that can keep connection to the soul of business?
Blaine Bartlett at 4 p.m.
Look forward to seeing you there.
At Route664.org. This is Route 664 Radio.
And we're back. My guest is Andre Roitman. Andre, is that the right pronunciation? Roitman? Roitman?
Roitman.
A banker in his normal life and an EMT in his super life, doing super things in the community to help people when they need to be rescued through the organization Hatzalah. I know most people are most familiar with 911 in the case of an emergency. Shouldn't they have another number as well?
Yeah, definitely. If 911 is a tremendous service for the community. We're not here to substitute or take place of the 911 service at all. Our main goal is to be able to sometimes just bridge the gap between the emergency and be able to bring the patient quickly to final destination, to the hospital, to final care. And sometimes just to bridge the gap of communication and culture sensitivities that exist within the community. But sometimes we are closer by and we have our ambulances available, so we'll definitely take the patient all the way to the hospital. So it's definitely a good thing to have the Hatzalah number available in case you are in an area that we have responders. We're mostly happy to be able to help. Currently, we are in Miami Beach, in the Surfside, Bar Harbor area, in Aventura, Sunny Isles area, in North Miami Beach, in Hollywood, Hallandale, Boca Raton, and Deerfield Beach. So if you're in an area that doesn't have Hatzalah, calling Hatzalah will delay patient care. So we're very concerned about that, making sure people understand where they can rely on our services. And if they in doubt, always call 911. Make sure that you always have the care coming over to you regardless.
So how long does it take to become an EMT?
So if you go to a regular college here in South Florida, it will take between 4 to 6 months for you to become an EMT. The process in Hatzalah is a little bit longer. We want to make sure that the people that are going to the houses of the families are people highly trained. So once you become an EMT, you get a license in 4 or 5 months. You become an observer at Hatzalah for a few months. Then you become a backup responder for a few months. Eventually, you become a primary responder. So I would say the process between 9 to 12 months for somebody to be fully trained to be a primary responder.
And that's as a volunteer. They don't get paid. I want to point that out, that this is strictly a voluntary human kindness element that we are stressing here, is that you can help your community by becoming trained to do EMT services and help provide those services in an emergency situation where you're closest to the person and they may be able to help them instead of them waiting sometimes for ambulance services, which could be a lot longer than the Hatzalah, as I understand it, because you're closer to the scene. So the number easy to remember for Hatzalah?
Unfortunately, not so easy to remember, but people have they add to their cell phones and to the speed dial. The 305 919 4900.
305 919 4900. 919 4900. Okay.
Right. So people would like to utilize this.
You need to have that in your phone. So if you have an emergency where you need to be rescued, what I would imagine that it's almost in any situation, whether it's somebody's fallen into a pool or whatever. What are the most what's like the most unusual thing that you've seen or had to deal with?
Well, we unfortunately we've seen a lot, from finger cuts all the way to cardiac arrest, and unfortunately, the most unfortunate calls are always pediatric drowning. South Florida, it has a lot of pools. People come from New York or from other places that they're not used to having pool in their backyard, and they don't understand how quickly a kid can go into the pool and how quickly they lose consciousness and they lose their breathing and lose heart rate. And for us to bring the kid back after 10 minutes they're being underwater is the most difficult type of calls that we have, and is very unfortunate. People in South Florida, when they come, they should be very, very conscious about the pools. The kids should be alerted, they should be trained, they must know how to swim. But most of that, we need to be able to lock those pools and put gates around it. It's so important. Unfortunately, every year we have situations like this, and it break our hearts, the entire community when that happens. So definitely something to be aware of. Those kind of calls we do not want to have ever.
Yeah, so they're not unusual, but they do happen quite often, and those are, I would imagine, those are really difficult. So I haven't had a necessity to use Hatzalah. I don't want to have to use Hatzalah, but I can tell you that I will remember that number, 919-4900. It gets a little bit easier when you think about it in terms of what you can do. And if you out there would like to become a volunteer with Hatzalah, you can. You can also provide services as an EMT, but you got to go through the training, and it is a totally volunteer situation, but you become important in your community, and you can serve your community that way.
You can go online.
Sorry?
We have a website.
Okay.
The abbreviation of Hatzalah South Florida EMS, which is hsfems.org.
hsfems.org. Okay.
Correct. And over there, you have information how to join. There's a tab. You can just click join, and you send an inquiry to join. There is definitely a possibility to make a donation there in the website as well, which is a 501c3. So it's 100% tax deductible donation. I mean, not 100%. It is a tax deductible donation. I wish it was 100%.
Well, it is 100% tax deductible. It just can't take off 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the website also, you have a lot of information about the organization and pictures of how the ambulances look like, so you can recognize a Hatzalah volunteer. The other day, one of our volunteers was actually in a restaurant, and somebody actually had an emergency, and they realized because of the radio, they said, "Are you Hatzalah?" He said, "Yes." So there's a guy in the floor outside. So he ran outside to help the person. So the patient care started within less than a minute of the occurrence of the emergency. And that's the beauty. It's like having people train in CPR. We just stepping up a notch, having people train in EMT and paramedic in order to be able to help.
How does the person identify? How do they know that person is a Hatzalah EMT? They have a uniform, or is it they have a badge, or what does it work? So
Hatzalah members are mostly are all civilians, just people going on with their lives. They might be in a restaurant, they might be in a bank, they might be doing working in a job site, and basically this radio. It's if you see a civilian walking around with a radio like this,
I see.
It's not very usual, but in general, if you call the hotline and I'll get a call and I see the address and I'm right there. So that's the best way, the easiest way to get to the patient is through the communications that exists already. But if you see a Hatzalah, usually have a yellow and blue ambulance that with the Hebrew words on it. It says Hatzalah, which is rescue. This is our truck. We have 2 ambulances in Aventura, 1 ambulance in Hallandale that we cross county. We don't have a county division. We have 2 ambulances in North Miami Beach that also supports the Highland Lakes area. And we have ambulances in Surfside, 2 ambulances in Surfside that also helps with the south area of the Sunny Isles area. So we basically have we're growing. Listen, we didn't have the ability to have ambulances 2 years ago. So 14 ambulances in 2 years multiplied by the cost of acquiring those ambulances. it was a tremendous achievement coming from a $200,000 budget. We believe in God very much, and definitely we believe that God runs this organization.
Well, my help for you is in terms of you actually, as a 501c3 organization, can rescue people for their taxes and their income production, and that's something that that would be really important to people to allow people to endow you as well as give you current gifts, and that can be done using charity, charitable devices. And as a charity, you're one of the best resources that people could support in their own community because it's so vital. And that's what Route 664 is all about. That's what we are. Our main thrust is to get people to be aware that they can benefit themselves through charity, not only just the psychic and obviously spiritual value of the charity, but also from the standpoint of financial well-being. And that is another part of it. It's a part of loving yourself and loving the community. That's why our formula is 664 equals E squared, where E is endowment squared, where the endowment is for the individual first, and then he passes it on to the community. If we can get everybody to do that, we'd be able to support Hatzalah and the hospital and a lot of other things without having, a lot of taxation and involuntary, what we call involuntary philanthropy. We want voluntary philanthropy. We want everybody to be down the road of human kindness. And if they have the need for rescue on their road to human kindness, reach out to Hatzalah first if you can, and you know how to reach them at 305-919-4900. They will be on the scene quickly, and all great benefits. All great benefits.
Every ambulance of ours carry a biblical line that says, "Love your fellow as you love yourself." So that is the essence of what Hatzalah stands for.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's what we want to. That's what we want the world to be about. We want what we call 664, not war. There's no reason to have anything like that. We can do everything if we help each other and make the world a better place. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Andre Roitman, the director of Hatzalah in South Florida. And we wish you Godspeed and protect us. And thank you very much for your service. And thank everybody that works in that vein. It's really a terrific thing for us on the Human Kindness Network here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, and we are all about creating a better world using endowment. Endow yourself and then endow the community. Make your life better, reduce your taxes, increase your income using charity. That's what you have available to you. The Congress was so wise, so smart in 1969 when they passed these laws, and we need to get people to take advantage of it. That's what the whole thing is. We need you to get 664 under your belt. We need you to have it in your psyche, just like you know what a 401k is or a 529. The same thing is true about 664. And you can go to our website at socialsecharity.org, socialsecharity, secharity.org, and see where we've put up a lot of information about social security and the difference between social security and social security and what 664 means. And we're also now creating another website, which is endowamerica.com, endowamerica.com. That will be a site that will have more public information as to how this is done, how social security can help you increase your income and reduce your taxes using charity. And that is very valuable when you have certain things that are occurring. So we have case studies up there. We have times when it's important for you to know about 664, if you're selling appreciated assets, if you have the need to reduce the taxes on your own personal income and you want to reduce maybe the RMD in your IRA because it's going to be too much. There's all sorts of things that you can do that most people don't know they exist. So if you don't know they exist, you're an uninformed taxpayer. We want to inform you. We want you to be an informed taxpayer. We want you to pay less than you have to. Nobody says you have to pay the most that the law extracts. You have to pay the least amount that you can and keep that money in the community functioning at a community level. And you can do that using these programs. Again, don't forget We are all about human kindness, and Route 664 Radio is a great way to find out more about our work in human kindness, what we're doing, how we've done this interview. Will play again on that radio station, and of course, you get the great music, all done by the fabulous Wanda Miles' choice of her entertainment, make you feel good all day. And then we have some very special shows on there as well as the work that we're doing. And we recommend that you tune in, get the app on Apple or Android. That's route664radio.org. And we'll be with you again, same time, same station. Just keep tuned in to the Road to Human Kindness, Route 664. See ya.